My name is Jared Polin, and I'm a photographer. And if there's one thing I've learned over the years is that networking is the key to success. So I wanted to see how far photography could take me simply by word of mouth. Who will I meet? Where will I go? And what will happen next? Well, there's only one way to find out. Welcome to 6 Degrees of Photography. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and in the last episode, I was in the studio with music producer Stefan Macchio when at the end of the night, he said, "You're gonna wanna come back tomorrow because I'm gonna connect you with an artist whose debut album sold 11 million copies, and that artist is James Blunt." So the next day is where we pick up in the photo book with James Blunt sitting on the sofa with another co-writer by the name of Mozella, who also co-wrote Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. So they're just sitting there having a conversation, feeling out the beginning of the day, just getting comfortable with each other because I don't believe that they worked with each other before this. And at the very beginning, Stefan was like, "James, is it cool if Jared's here to take photos?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem at all." And that's, again, what's great about connections. There's no gatekeepers. James was like, yes, because he believes in what Stefan does, and that's how I was able to sit here and get this intimate moment, because even Mozella said it. She's not used to having, or she doesn't allow people to take photos because it becomes a distraction. But we didn't have an issue because I know when to shut up, I know when not to take photos, I know when to take photos, and I also know how to stay out of the way. But right here, starting off the day, got this great shot of the two of them right before we moved into the writing room, which is where the two pianos are from Stefan. What I love about this photo, again, is the reflection on the piano. We've got Mozella on the right in the reflection. We have her on the left in the reflection. We have James taking notes about lyrics on his computer, and Stefan is off to the right, just playing around, tickling the ivories. And Mozella is throwing out lyric after lyric. It's like, really, this is coming off the top of your head? It's no wonder why you're one of the premier writers in the music industry. It's amazing to sit there as a fly on the wall and listen to this stuff be created. It's just awesome to watch professionals at work. So the piano, whenever the piano is open, I love shooting through it. And that's how I got this shot of James right here. He's thinking, lyrics are coming to mind. You can see the thing that props open the piano hood right there. You can see the color of the inside of the piano, and it just leads you right into the frame and the image. Here I am playing with reflections once again. I love the fact that the piano is so clean and so shiny that I get a reflection like this, which takes a scene that really isn't that interesting and makes it that much better, because they're just sitting here. They're just sitting here writing lyrics and trying to find the song, just like I'm sitting there trying to find the image, and that's what I came up with. So later on in the day, it was time to track some vocals. That's where Stefan stayed in his recording booth, shut the door. Then Mozella and James went into the other recording booth, and for the time being, they left the door open until they realized that my shutter made too much noise, because the D5 makes a lot of noise. And this is where, say, something like a Sony A9 with the electronic shutter would have come in handy, but I still got some cool shots. I just love the juxtaposition here. You've got one person in the room on the right, you've got the two people in the room on the left, the pianos, the microphones, the computers. Most people will never find themselves in a studio for the birth of a song. It is really a privilege to be allowed in there to capture something like this, and I'm happy that they allowed me to do that. And so while the door was open, it gave me a chance to break out the 70 to 200 to get some tighter shots of James listening to Stefan, talking to him and giving him, producing from the other room, giving him some direction on where he thinks the song should go, and James just contemplatively thinking about it. And I just love how the microphone is there. You've got the spit guard, and you've got James just thinking about the song. And same thing just follows us into the next image that covers the full page of this book. James thinking, getting ready to find the song, tight with the microphone, tight with James. This is a musical portrait. I mean, this is the stuff that you want to have access to as a photographer. It is just in these places where most people won't find themselves to capture images. And then when they did shut the door because it was making too much noise, my shutter, I went into the studio behind where Stefan was, and there's glass. that separates the two rooms. So of course it's soundproof, so you could have drums in one room or the piano here, and you can have vocals in the other, and then they've got their cans on so that they can hear the track playing back. And this is just James listening back to the track. I'm using the light coming out of his laptop to fill in his eyes, and one of the things that stands out in this image to me is that the evenness of the reflections on the left of the light and the right of the light, it's kind of perfectly matched, and the black and white shot just sells it as a classic behind the scenes image once again. Here it is. This is the wider shot. Now you can see how the room is set up. Stefan is in the corner in the other room producing James. You've got Mozilla in the background just sitting, listening. James is getting ready to sing. You can see the piano in the foreground on my side of the wall, and I'm just capturing this like they don't even realize that I'm there. That's what it's about when it comes to photography. So that wrapped up the writing session for the three of them, and they took me outside to get this photo of Stefan, Mozilla, and James, who was waiting for a car to take him to the Staples Center in LA, where he was opening for Ed Sheeran. Now, this is where you think the story would have come to an end, with James going to the Staples Center to get to a show. Now, I had an idea that I wanted to go photograph this show, but I haven't even talked to James up until this point yet, but he sat down in his car, and as Stefan was saying goodbye, I came over to the door before he shut it, and I said, James, I said, is there any way I could leave with you right now with my camera gear, come to the stadium and shoot your show? And he thought for a second, and he said, let me get back to you about that. I'll text you from the road to see if that's possible. So he shut the door, and they went on their way, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be the end of the story. Lo and behold, 5 minutes later, James called Stefan and said, give this number to Jared, and when he gets to the stadium, have him call it, and we'll bring him up an all-access pass to start shooting the show. Now, before we get to the show, I want to thank Squarespace for being the sponsor of this episode. And if you'd like to see a site built using Squarespace, go to FroKnowsPhoto.com. And if you'd like to build your very own website, head on over to squarespace.com/FroKnowsPhoto to get a 14-day free trial. And if you decide that it's for you, use the code FroKnowsPhoto at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Now let's get to the Staples Center. So the trip to the Staples Center was an interesting story. It was rush hour in LA. I only had to go 7 or 8 miles, and it took 60 minutes in an Uber to get there. But I got there in time, called the number that James had given Stefan to give to me. The tour manager came up, hands me an all-access pass, walks me right into the dressing room where James is sitting down here, changing his shoes. You've got the guitar sitting there on the left-hand side. You've got other band members in the background, and I have all access. How amazing is that? The connection that Stefan was able to make and where photography is taking me is incredible. I'm sitting here backstage at the Staples Center with James Blunt getting ready for a show. I mean, these photos, I just love how these photos turned out. Really contrasty black and white of a wide angle of the entire band just warming up for the show. You've got James right in the middle. You've got all of the songs for the playlist for the show just waiting right there, and everybody's just talking and waiting. I mean, this is the access you don't get. I talk about this all the time. This is the access I want. I don't want to just shoot 3 songs and then leave a concert. I want to be there early. I want to be in the dressing room, and I want to get these intimate moments of James warming up with the band, just sitting around, having conversations, and seeing what goes on before the show. Now, how many of you have seen Spinal Tap? Now, you know how they get lost on their way to the stage? Well, this was the second night that the band was playing the Staples Center of 3 nights in a row with Ed Sheeran. And I didn't know where I was going, and I was walking out of the room first because I wanted to get the band walking down the corridors. So what would happen is I would go left, and they'd say, no, Jared, it's not that way. And then I would get to the next shot, and I would go the other way, and they'd be like, nope, still not that way. But just look at this shot. And this is why they're laughing, is because I kept going the wrong way. It was just one of those things. I didn't know where I was going, but finally we got to the area where the band would come out to go up on stage, and James was just waiting there in the opening. You can see the Staples Center in the background. You can see all the road cases lining the walls right here. It's drawing us in with a natural frame. This is a classic shot in my mind because it's before the artist goes on stage. It's another one of those shots that you don't get to see unless you have all access to do so. So they're waiting to go up, and then next is where the show has started. I am alone shooting. There's nobody else that they've let in to shoot this show so far, and I have all free reign to go wherever I need to go in the photo pit to get these shots. Now, normally live shots, they're not the greatest things in the world when you're just shooting from the pit, but in this case, it's still not the greatest shot in the world. I won't tell you that it is, but it's just a cool shot with the way that the lights are set up. You've got those two lights shining back into the camera. You've got James here. He's not eating the microphone, because I say it all the time, you don't want the artist to be eating the microphone. And right here, he's looking off to the side. Everything is symmetrical. It's even left to right, top to bottom, and it makes for an awesome shot. And what happened next, I was not expecting. Being that I have not seen a show on this tour, I didn't know what was gonna happen. But James sat down at the piano, and I'm still in the photo pit, and I hear him tell everybody to take their phones out of their pockets and hold them up. And I knew at that point I needed to get on stage. Now, I had all access to do so. So I walked around and I got up onto the stage and realized I had to sneak between the drum riser and where one of the keyboards were to get the shot. And I crouched down, I saw where I needed to be, and then I realized I had to stand up. I stood up to get this shot. I figured the spotlight, which is shining, and you can see it shining on James, it's probably gonna shine on me. But the only way to get the photo, to get this epic look of the entire stadium with people's cell phones lit up, was to stand up to get the shot, because shooting down lower just didn't work out. I wasn't worried that people would remember seeing me there, because they'll just remember the photo or they'll just remember James. But this shot, I just sit here and look at this all the time and go, now that is an epic shot. I mean, just look at this image and think about where we started. We started with Steve Weatherford in a tutu running around on the beach. And then he connected me with Lewis Howes, where I got the cover of his New York Times best-selling book, Mask of Masculinity. And then Lewis sent me to Jason Flom, where I covered the Innocence Project Gala down in Louisiana. Jason connected me with Maddie Noyes, who's that up-and-coming musician, and I got some awesome portraits of her. And then she made that connection with Stefan Macchio, who in the end was able to connect me with James Blunt. And that's what brings us back to this photo of James Blunt right here. And that completes the first season of 6 Degrees of Photography. And again, that shows you the power of networking and where photography can take you. And my question to you is, where is photography gonna take you? So thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.